Hey there and welcome. So, have you ever seen a nature documentary and wondered why a meerkat would put itself in danger to stand guard for the group? Or why some birds spend all their energy helping raise chicks that aren't even their own? It's this huge puzzle called altruism, and it seems to completely go against the whole survival of the fittest idea. Today, we're going to break down exactly how this kind of selfless behavior actually makes perfect sense from an evolutionary standpoint. I mean, really think about it. In the brutal, high-stakes scheme of evolution, passing on your genes is pretty much the only thing that matters. So why on earth would any animal waste its precious time and energy raising someone else's babies instead of, making its own? It's a massive question, one that even had Darwin scratching his head. All right, let's really get into it. And to do that, I'm going to put you right in the driver's seat. Picture this. You're a scientist, a behavioral ecologist, out in the field. You've just stumbled upon a totally new species of rodent. And what's weird is that some of them don't seem to breed at all. They just help. So your mission is to figure out what in the world is going on here. Okay, before we can even think about heading into the field, every good investigator needs a toolkit, a conceptual toolkit. To crack this case, we have to get a handle on the different ways an animal's genes can make it into the next generation. And it turns out there are two main paths. So first up, we've got the one we all know about, direct fitness. This is your classic Darwinian survival of the fittest. It's all about how many of your own kids you have and successfully raise. Think of it as your personal reproductive score. Simple enough, right? But here is where it gets really interesting. This is the idea of indirect fitness. And this idea was a total game changer. It says you can also pass on copies of your genes by helping your relatives, your brothers, your sisters, your cousins, have more kids. And why does that work? Well, because they share a whole bunch of the exact same genes that you have. So, the big takeaway here is that an animal's total genetic legacy, what scientists call its inclusive fitness, is actually a combination of both. It's the sum of your direct fitness and your indirect fitness. It's the kids you have yourself plus all the extra nieces and nephews you helped bring into the world. And this quote just nails the gene's eye view of evolution. It's not about the animal thinking, oh, I should be a good brother. From the gene's perspective, it honestly doesn't care if it's in your body or your sibling's body. Its only goal is to get copied. And helping a relative who also carries it, that's a fantastic strategy. And believe it or not, this all boils down to a beautifully simple little formula called Hamilton's rule. Basically, it says that a helpful or altruistic act is a good bet for a gene if the benefit to the one you're helping times how closely related you are is bigger than the cost to you. This formula, R times B is greater than C, is going to be the central clue we use in our investigation. All right, we've got our toolkit. Let's see how this all plays out in the wild. For our investigation into this new rodent, our first step is always the same. We have to just watch. And to help us know what to look for, let's check out a classic case file. Say hello to the long-tailed tit. These little guys are a perfect example of cooperative breeders. What happens is, if a pair's nest fails, they don't just give up for the season. Nope. They often fly off and become helpers at another nest. The question is, whose nest? Okay, first question. Does the helping even, help? We have to establish the B in our equation, the benefit. And this data makes it absolutely clear. Look at this chart. When a nest has 0 helpers, a certain number of chicks survive. Add 1 helper, survival goes up. Add 2 or more, it goes way up. The help isn't just nice, it's a massive deal. Okay, so helping provides a huge benefit. Check. But for our main hypothesis, kin selection, to be right, we have to answer the next absolutely critical question. Is all this help directed at relatives? This is where we go looking for the R, relatedness. And the data came back with a big, loud yes. Field studies found that a whopping 79% of these helpers were helping out at the nests of their close kin. That is a seriously strong correlation, and it points directly at kin selection being the main driver here. Now, that correlation is a fantastic clue. But as good scientists, we know that correlation isn't causation, right? It's not enough proof. We need to go from these two things seem to happen together to this thing causes that thing. And for that, you need an experiment. So here's the nagging question. Maybe the birds aren't choosing to help kin. Maybe they just help the closest nest, and since they don't move far from home, that nest just happens to belong to a brother or a cousin. To prove they're actively choosing family, we have to give them a choice. And here it is, the results of that very experiment. Just look at this chart. It's not even subtle. When birds whose nests had failed were given a choice between helping at a relative's nest and a non-relative's nest, well, the results were an absolute landslide. In 16 out of 17 trials, they flew straight to their family. This is not a coincidence. It's a deliberate choice. We are so close to cracking this case, but there's one more potential snag we have to account for. We've been relying on observation to figure out who's related to whom. But, how can we be sure? Cheating, or what scientists call extra-pair paternity, is super common in the animal world, and it can mess up our whole family tree. And the ultimate tool to solve that problem? Genetic analysis. DNA doesn't lie. Take the case of the Seychelles warbler. For years, everyone assumed the helpers were older siblings helping their parents. But when they ran the DNA, surprise, there was so much cheating going on that the helpers were barely related to the chicks. It turned out the helping was really about direct benefits. The helpers were getting to sneak their own eggs into the nest. It's the perfect cautionary tale. Always check the genetics. Okay, we've learned from the birds, we've got our tools, we know the pitfalls. We now have a complete blueprint. Let's get back to your mission, that new species of rodent. Using everything we've just covered, we can build a rock-solid research plan to figure out what's going on. Here's your 5-step plan to crack this case. 1. You gotta tag every single rodent so you know who's who. 2. Get DNA samples from everyone. Build the real family tree. No guesswork. 3. Quantify the benefits. Do groups with helpers have more surviving pups? 4. Test Hamilton's rule. Does the amount of help an individual gives correlate with their actual genetic relatedness? And finally, step 5, if you can, design a choice experiment. Prove they're actively choosing kin. Follow these steps and you'll have your answer. But what if you do all that work, you run the numbers, and the data for your rodents just doesn't support kin selection? Well, that's science. It's always more complicated than you think. Evolution has a few other tricks up its sleeve for creating cooperation. Maybe your rodent helpers are actually getting direct benefits. Perhaps they're waiting in line to inherit the territory. Or maybe helping is just a side effect of a selfish act. Like with meerkats, where just staying in a big group for your own safety automatically helps everyone. It could even be what they call an ecological constraint. Maybe there are just no available territories, so helping out at home is the best of a bad situation. And that brings us all the way back to the heart of the mystery. When we watch an animal helping another, are we really seeing a selfless act? Or is it always, on some level, a cold, hard, strategic investment in the future of its own genes, whether it's making its own kids or helping its relatives make more? That is the code we, as scientists, are constantly trying to crack.